Hi, my dear Astro family. We have reached the end of the line. Right now, the nodes of fate are sitting at the very final degrees of Pisces and Virgo, and the personal planets are about to trigger them like a tripwire. So if you feel like your life has been a pressure cooker or like you are standing at a crossroads where going back is no longer an option, most likely you are right. This isn't just another weekly update. This is your final karmic exam before the universe changes the rules of the game next month. Today I'm breaking down why the next 7 days are paving stones for a massive Uranus disruption that will change your trajectory forever. If you don't settle your debts now, the stars are going to settle them for you. So welcome back to my channel. My name is AstroViktor, and we are looking at the week of May 20th to the 27th. Currently, we have got a massive contradiction in the sky. On one hand, Venus in Cancer is trying to give us a green light to follow our hearts. But on the other hand, the Sun has just entered Gemini and is moving into a hard square with those final degrees nodes. So what does this mean for you? It means your mind is arguing with your destiny. I'm going to be breaking this down, of course, for all 12 signs in separate videos, but you might want to be signing up to my channel so that you are not missing these very important updates. The South Node in Virgo has spent months making you obsessed with the details, the to-do list, the perfectionism. But as it hits these final degrees, the old way of functioning is becoming more of a prison. So the North Node in Pisces is calling for a total surrender, but the Sun in Gemini is terrified of letting go of the data. So you are somehow trapped this week between knowing and trusting, and this week the tension reaches quite a breaking point. But here is the real secret, which we don't want to miss on. This week's personal planet triggers the Sun, Venus, and even a very aggressive Mars-Pluto square are just the opening act. They are paving the way for Uranus to square the nodes next month. So think of this week as your kind of stress test. The universe is shaking the foundation of your life to see what's loose there. Whatever cracks appear in your relationships or your career, this week are exactly where Uranus is going to strike with lightning bolt change in June. So by the end of this video, you are going to know exactly how to use the Mars-Venus harmony to stabilize your foundation, how to survive the Mars-Pluto power struggle without burning basically your world down. But let's get into day-by-day breakdown, starting on the 20th of May. And we are opening the week with a pretty nice aspect, and that's going to be the Venus and Mars sextile. And this is actually an important sextile because the Mars has shifted into the sign of Taurus, and Venus disposes Mars there. So a sextile is a soft aspect that creates an opportunity for the two planets to work together harmoniously. Because this involves the lover, that's Venus, and the hero, which is Mars. It creates kind of like that smooth flow between desire and action. Now, Mars in Taurus, the action is a bit slow, deliberate, focused on tangible results. It isn't about rushing, it's about endurance, sensuality, building something that lasts. Venus in Cancer values emotional safety, nurturing, the home base. Affection is shown through caretaking and creating a protective environment. So, on one hand, the key themes for this could be potentially financial or even career stability. I think this is actually an excellent time for making grounded moves regarding money and property, since Taurus rules the stuff we own and Cancer rules the place we live. So you might find success in negotiating a raise or a contract based on your proven track record, investing in high quality items for the home or the office, taking a step-by-step approach to a creative project that has long-term potentials. Maybe you decide that you want to be earning money from home, but it's also super good to kind of spend some more cozy time together with your partner. So this is the ultimate relationship kind of like trigger. This is happening on 1 degree, so it's going to be affecting you the most if you have got any planets on 1 degree, really. But that heat of Mars is very cooled by that earthy nature of Taurus and the watery nature of Cancer as well. So it doesn't make it less romantic, really. It makes it more intentional. It makes it more kind of like a bit kinder. So instead of a flashy, loud date, this energy is favoring a home-cooked meal or a walk through a garden. It's a bit of an act of service as kind of like the love language. So it becomes easier to express physical needs without feeling aggressive or overwhelming. But I also believe that this is very good for creative productivity as well. So you might have been sitting on an idea, then this aspect provides the engine to start building that foundation up. That's exactly what Mars wants in the sign of Taurus. Maybe a writer finally organizing their notes into more of this cohesive outline, or a designer choosing that specific fabrics that's very Taurus and fabrics and the sensory type of things. Because with Venus in Cancer, we are trying to make something cozy. We are trying to make other people feel cozy as well. So I think focus on slow and steady wins, the race type of energy with this. I think try to avoid forcing a quick result. This energy requires quite a lot of patience. And the outcome could be something tangible, progress, basically, that feels very emotionally rewarding as well. Now, straight away, Venus, 2 days later, it's going to be making a trine to the north node and the sextile to south node as well. So it's the green light from the universe, suggesting that following your heart and your intuition will lead you exactly where you need to be. Just gonna have to be listening to your intuition. It's an intuitive alignment, really. When a planet aspects the nodal axis, it highlights a bridge between our past habits and our future growth or our potentials. So because Venus in Cancer values emotional connection, kind of tribal loyalty, the feeling of belonging. The North Node in the sign of Pisces is that collective destiny that we are meant to be moving towards. And that is compassion, that is surrender, that is the dissolution of really rigid boundaries. While the South Node in the sign of Virgo, that's our comfort zone. We are overanalyzing, we are striving for perfection, getting bogged down in little tiny details. So it's a little bit like I'm trying to move from fixing to more feeling. The South Node often makes us feel like we need to fix everything before we can be happy. Venus in Cancer trining the North Node suggests that happiness comes from emotional acceptance, forgiveness. So instead of like rewriting a project for the 10th time to get it perfect, you might need to trust your gut feeling that the message is already landing with the right people. Or Venus is the relationship planet. So this is very much of a karmic aspect. You may meet people or deepen connections that feel like they were meant to be or that support your higher purpose. Now you can see that this is happening on 4 degrees. So this is going to be affecting you if you have got any planets on 4 degree especially. I'm also curious to hear whether you notice that there is a karmic shift happening in your life, that maybe the direction that you have been heading towards is maybe need a bit of a change, the change in the gears. Uh, Maybe an old friend or a colleague reaches out with an opportunity that might be matching your dreams, but this Venus North Node trine wants you to go towards your dreams, something that you have been privately nurturing for a while, but potentially maybe you haven't made the steps yet because you don't have the confidence or you keep overanalyzing things. So say yes to the invitation of North Node, especially when it feels emotionally resonant. And don't try to be choosing something that is logical on paper. Venus, of course, rules finances as well. So while the previous Mars-Venus aspect was about the hard work of making money, this Venus node aspect is about the flow of resources. So if you want to decide to invest in a creative or a spiritual endeavor because it feels right, rather than because the spreadsheet looks perfect, then that sextile to the South Node in Virgo ensures you still have enough common sense to keep, the receipts and keep your, let's say, finances in check as well. So Venus is creating this bridge between the nodes, and these are nice aspects. So basically, this is a easy to move towards type of flow, towards the future. It kind of feels like when the wind is at your back, and that sextile to the South Node ensures that you don't lose your grounding, your footing. You can use your past experiences and skills as a stable platform, let's say, to launch into that new, more intuitive kind of like direction. Now, on the very same day, we do have got a Mercury and a Saturn sextile as well. So you see that Mercury is on 11, Saturn is on 11 as well. And so therefore, this is going to be the most important aspect for you if you have got any planets on 11 degree. And I think it's about a bit of it's a bridge of logic, basically. While the Venus aspects are about feelings and fate, this aspect is about executing ideas with a bit of precision. So Mercury in Gemini, it's Mercury is in its home sign. It's fast, it's clever, it's curious, it's multitasking, it wants to talk, write, gather information. Saturn is the planet of structure and boundaries. So in Aries, it demands that we take the leadership and act with courage, but with a plan though. So another sextile, right, which is a harmonious aspect. So there is a harmonious aspect between the speed of Mercury and the willingness to turn things around. So this is brilliant for signing contracts, finalizing plans. Mercury in Gemini can sometimes be all talk, but this Saturn is actually says, no, we need the ink as well. We have to write things down. So maybe you have been doing a lot of brainstorming, for example, with Mercury and Uranus conjunction the previous week, which of course I spoke about in my previous weekly forecast. But now this is about let's get going. Let's get the pen and paper and then let's make it happen. So today you pick the best one and then, because you might have had 5 different ideas for a project, let's pick the best one and then let's write down a 30-day kind of like execution plan. I think it's brilliant for signing legal documents, finishing a manuscript, or hitting publish on a complex piece of work. Yeah, this could talk to us about having serious conversations, but usually with quick results because we have got two quick signs involved. And serious talks often feel heavy. With Mercury in Gemini, the tone remains light, but Saturn ensures the point is made and it is a respectful type of chit chat. So you can have a meeting with the collaborators to set boundaries on a project. You are able to explain your needs clearly, quickly, or we can kind of like roll out really firm rules within the company. And the sextile kind of ensures that everyone is going to be, in a way, agreeable. But also, this is brilliant for mastering new skills as well. Gemini loves to learn, Saturn loves to practice. So if you would like to study something new, I'm about to be launching my 16-week relocation course coming up on 31st of May. And it's available in two ways. Either you purchase the entire course or you can choose it through my membership program as well. This course is going to teach you to find the best place ever to live. Check out the syllabus on my website, AstroViktor.com, and then you will be able to see what we're exactly going to be learning. But this aspect is super good for learning. Instead of just watching the tutorial, maybe you sit down and then do the drills. Maybe it's good for learning software or language, or just the information sticks better with this aspect. Now, the next aspect is Sun. We are still on the same day, on the 22nd. Sun is making a conjunction to Uranus. And that's kind of like a massive surge of lightning bolt energy. Sun represents our core identity, our vitality, and it meets the planet of revolution, breakthroughs, the unexpected. So somehow it says that the status quo is no longer an option. In Gemini, this manifests through the mind, communication, your local environment. The Sun in Gemini is focusing on curiosity, variety, information, social connection. It's very light, it's fast-paced, it's very intellectual. While Uranus in Gemini disrupts whatever sign it is in. So in Gemini, it revolutionizes how we think, how we speak, how we share data. It brings out of the box ideas, sudden news as well. It's a conjunction, so the two of them are meant to be merging. So imagine the sun being your battery is being plugged into this very high voltage electrical socket. So of course you are going to be super fast somehow. Imagine that like sudden insights and brain waves are happening, sudden downloads of information. Solutions are coming to a problem through just chit-chatting with someone, or something that has been bothering you potentially for a month, and all of a sudden I start seeing what is happening. I mean, imagine that you have been working on something for a month, but you have been looking at it the wrong way. And then you decide to delete half of it and then rewrite it in like 20 minutes. And then it's just going to become much better with a more innovative angle to it. So I think keep your notepad or your phone handy, and because these ideas can come super fast, but they can disappear just as fast, as quickly. So you might want to be writing them down. Gemini loves change as well, and Uranus pretty much demands it. So you might even notice that you want to break your daily habits. So instead of your usual workspace, you decide to work from a cafe or a park. Because the scenery can trigger kind of like a conversation within you or with a stranger that could lead to a new business model. For example, Gemini loves businesses. This is super good for flash sales as well, by the way. So if you have got websites, you might want to be using this aspect for it. But it should be a flash sale. Uh, you might feel even very restless with this. So, or you can even bump into someone you haven't seen for a while, and then you are guys having this very stimulating kind of like conversation. However, this aspect can make people very blunt as well. We can be blurting out the truth. So let's just watch out for that, because maybe you find yourself speaking up about a flawed system, for example, something that everyone was ignoring, and then you can be really pointing out. The sun is kind of like the cosmic torchlight. So be careful with send buttons as well. Gemini is about phone calls, emails, writing, and it's very easy to make mistakes also. But I think the goal of this aspect is to liberate yourself from boringness, like boredom, boring thoughts, outdated mental loops. It is asking you to experiment, try something weird, maybe technologically advanced. But you can definitely feel this very high nervous energy and jitteriness as well with it. So then the next stop is Venus in Cancer squares the nodes. Now, this is also happening on the same day. So you can see that the 22nd is a super, super busy day. And a square creates a tension, really. So it forces us to deal with a conflict between what we want to feel and the reality or the lack of reality of that situation. Venus in Cancer wants to protect, nurture, feel safe. It craves a sure thing in love and home. Neptune in Pisces, So Neptune in Aries, Neptune is the planet of dreams and illusion and spiritual dissolution. Neptune knows no boundaries. So therefore, because it's a square, it's more of a blind spot. We might see what we want to see rather than what is actually there. So I think it might be coming with emotional idealism. Maybe you just want to save someone, but Neptune often masks the truth of a situation as well. So you meet someone, for example, who seems perfectly soulful, vulnerable, and you want to bring them into your inner circle, for example. But the problem with this aspect is that often we ignore the red flags. So maybe you want to wait 48 hours just for that fog to clear before you make any kind of emotional or financial commitment, especially because Aries is a very quick sign. I also believe that this could make you very sensitive as well. However, this aspect is brilliant for art. So if you feel frustrated and you have got built up anger, then let's put that into art and then let's kind of draw that anger out of ourselves. You can design, you can write poetry, you can work on a branding project. And I think this square might allow you to tap into deep collective emotions as well. Uh, However, this could also represent financial leakage too. You buy something because it feels magical, or you donate money to a cause without checking where the funds actually go. So double check your receipts and bank statements. It's very easy to lose track of small amounts today. Um, and obviously, with Venus in Cancer, we might be buying gifts, for example, for family members, or something to our loved ones, or something in the home environment as well, realizing later on that we didn't need it. Venus and Neptune is a bit dreamy, confusing. It's very highly sensitive as well. It can create really misunderstandings in situations because of being emotionally biased, for example. So this aspect is an invitation to rest, create art, to meditate, maybe avoiding a bit of a major life decisions as well. You can feel slightly drained, spaced out. You might need more sleep, which for Aries, it's not always that easy. So you would need to force that a little bit. Now, then the next stop is when we move a little bit forward, Sun is going to be trining Neptune, which is going to be happening on the 24th of May. And what's very interesting is that Venus started a square to Neptune. Now, the Sun comes and kind of rescues this scenario here. So the noise of that square is kind of like settling with the Sun coming around, because the Sun is going to allow you to consciously observe the inspiration, that heart desire, without getting lost in the illusions. So the Sun is going to start gathering certain type of data. It is very curious, it's very open-minded, but it is able to articulate the thoughts clearer. And maybe we were not able to do that with Venus and Neptune. So, if the Sun-Uranus conjunction on the 22nd gave you this sudden shock of idea, the Sun-Neptune sextile on the 24th helps you find the right words to explain it to others. So you had a radical idea maybe for a new business or a project. Let's sit down, let's write the about me part, or let's create the mission statement really. Gemini is very sociable, and Neptune is the empath. So together they make you very in tune with your audience as well. So also this is brilliant for flash sales and posting a video, for example, especially if it's a little bit heartfelt. Sometimes Aries wants to kick the door down. But Neptune influence suggests a more kind of subtle approach. So if you had certain type of conflicts with someone, instead of maybe with a student, a neighbor of yours, a sibling of yours, Gemini, instead of an aggressive confrontation, we can really use the cleverness, suggest a creative compromise, and then it might be honoring everyone's spirit. So it's a bit of a soft power move that it allows you. This also can make someone very imaginative, moving from confusion to more of an inspiration, making your impossible dream sound like kind of common sense because Venus and Neptune might have felt lost somehow. I don't know where I want to go. I don't know where this relationship is going. And it feels like clarity is on the way to you. What's very interesting is that while Venus made a beautiful trine to the nodes, now the Sun is about to start squaring the nodes, which is happening on the 25th. And, it's a crossroads. Whenever the most important aspects to the nodes are usually the square, because then, of course, the conjunctions are also, but when the conjunction happens, what really happens is that the scale is tipped. So let's say if I've got a planet sitting on the north node, somehow the south node is ignored. But when we have got a square, both of them get equal lights, in this case from the sun. So what really happens is that while Venus was previously kind of gliding along with the nodes, making it easy to feel the right path, the sun in Gemini squaring the nodes kind of create a bit of a point of crisis that demands a conscious choice. So, like I said, with the sun, we have to gather information. We have to look at other options. Is there a better option out there? Gemini represents options. So, a planet squaring the nodes is often called as the bending of the nodes. It means that we are at a crossroad and we have to be making a choice. Am I going to be choosing the past or am I going to choose the future? But Sun in Gemini focus on the here and now, the facts, the data, the social chatter, the immediate tasks. It's very busy, it's logical, sometimes a bit scattered as well. North Node says that let's look at the bigger picture. Let's trust our intuition. Let's move towards our spiritual and emotional growth. The South Node in Virgo pulls us back into that old habits of over criticizing, micromanaging, getting lost in our to-do list, the perfectionism, and so forth. So this could be, for example, a busy work trap, right? Because Virgo represents work. So the Sun in Gemini might try to solve a spiritual problem with more information, more emails. But this square then creates that tension because no amount of data can satisfy a soul level need for meaning. That's Pisces. You are so busy answering messages, organizing files that you completely ignore a gut feeling that you should be heading in a totally different direction with your work. It says you can't think your way out of a feeling. This square forces you to realize that being busy isn't the same as being productive. And Gemini wants to talk it out. The North Node in Pisces often requires silence or reflection to hear the inner voice. So you might feel very pressured to make a public statement or explain yourself to others, siblings, neighbors, lovers, and so on. However, the square suggests that the more you talk, the more confused the vibe becomes. So practice intentional silence before you send that tweet or email. Just ask yourself, a few questions like, does it align with my long-term vision? Is it worth getting into it? Since the sun is at the bending, it acts as a pivot point. So you have to find a way to use your Gemini skills, which is teaching, writing, communicating, to serve that Pisces North Node, which is healing, inspiring, transcending. So if you are a teacher, for example, instead of just giving a lecture on facts, you find a way to make the lesson emotionally resonant, a bit more magical. We have got the conflict here between logic and intuition and perfectionism. So the best course of action is to stop, to take a breath, and ensure your daily tasks are actually serving your dream. The risk here is that you can get so caught up in the details that you lose sight of the horizon. But Mars, at the same time, is also in sextile to the nodes. So a sextile to South Node, sorry, and a trine to the South Node. So you can see how many nodal activations we've got. This is a tremendous amount of nodal activations in 1 week. And I feel like it's the faith in action. The sun was overthinking a little bit the direction. Mars is simply doing the work to get there. And it takes very slow, persistent, focused kind of actions. It's focusing on the physical results. It doesn't rush, it builds something up. So I think the trine to the south node in Virgo, I think this is powering up for your existing skills. And you should be using your past experiences and existing skills, your technical abilities, your talent for organization, just to support your current or futuristic moves. And I think the North Node is providing the bridge where your physical efforts, Taurus, actually feeds your spiritual and your long-term vision, your long-term growth. So using the old to build the new, I think it's what this aspect is going to talk to us about. Um, so it means that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can take a system, a skill you've used for years and apply it into your own vision. This is about, Mars in Taurus is very concerned with the bottom line, the ROI. So the sextile to the north suggests that if you follow your gut, the money will follow as well. So maybe it's about investing time or money into a project that feels meant to be. And instead of like being a gamble, your Taurus nature ensures you do the work to make it a solid reality. It's kind of like dreaming, but with a budget, basically. That's what it means to me. And while the sun square the nodes can make your head spin with too many ideas, Mars in Taurus suggests that the movement is the cure. So if you feel overwhelmed by the crossroads of the sun square, go for a walk, do some gardening, focus on a manual task, but by grounding your body, the right choice among all those Gemini options becomes super clear for you. Um, And then the Sun is making a trine to Pluto as well, which is happening on the 26th. Pluto has just gone recently retrograde. So we have two very different ways of handling power occurring simultaneously because we have got the clash of titans, really. I mean, because the Sun is also like square the nodes, now it is making a trine to Pluto. I think it's like the Sun Pluto trine is kind of like the key that is handed to you to a kingdom. But then Mars is squaring Pluto as well at the same time. And Mars in Pluto is kind of like trying to force to enter that room while the key is right in our hands. Mars square Pluto is like someone who tries to take the kingdom by force. But Pluto is retrograde in Aquarius. This is an internalized energy. It's about reevaluating your influence and your tribe, potentially, your long-term goals. So while the sun is trining Pluto, I think it allows you to see beneath the surface and understand the hidden mechanics of a situation. This is the power of information. It's about having a life-changing conversation, doing the research that reveals the missing piece of a puzzle. I think this insight gives you massive leverage in negotiations or a project. This can make you feel very confident in the message that you want to share. This isn't about shouting, actually. You just know you are right because you have seen the underlying truth. It's actually brilliant for rebranding, doing the psychological work. But Mars is squaring Pluto as well at the same time, and that's an unstoppable force. It's kind of like a little bit of an immovable object, really. This is a very volatile aspect, really. I mean, the square between Mars and Pluto is like a pressure cooker. Mars in Taurus wants to keep things the way they are, uh, stability, possessions, while Pluto in Aquarius wants to revolutionize the system. That's the sign of change. So a power struggle over resources or how things are done. You might find yourself digging your heels in against a group or a system that is demanding you change. It's very explosive. It's anger. It's all or nothing. It's ultimatums. Because Pluto is retrograde, this might be a resentment that has been simmering since March or April, kind of like finally boiling over. Really avoid power struggles where winning doesn't actually get you anything. If you feel backed into a corner, use the Sun's trine to negotiate rather than Mars square to fight, because that would be an ugly one. The Sun trine Pluto see the truth, and Mars square Pluto says, I will not be moved. So Mars square Pluto is very stubborn, it's very intense, and the Sun trine Pluto is really about focus and charisma. The danger here is being too manipulative, physical burnout, and aggression. But the strategy should be with Sun trine Pluto that we use the words to transform. And with Mars square Pluto, we don't force a result. We wait for the pressure to kind of drop a little bit. The Sun in Gemini is your exit strategy here. When the Mars square makes you want to blow things up or refuse to budge, use that Sun's curiosity to ask, why am I fighting this? Is there a smarter way to get what we want? And I think the Sun trine Pluto suggests that you can actually change the system by changing how you talk about it. You don't need to kind of bulldoze the wall because that's what Mars and Pluto does. If you can find kind of like a secret door, Sun in Gemini suggests that there is always an option. And let's not choose the Mars-Pluto one, basically. So, what we really see here is that, like I said, most of the personal planets are triggering the nodes. And the nodes are at the end of the sign. So it's a reminder for us to do our karmic changes, basically. It feels like it's a now or never type of quality to this energy. And when personal planets trigger these points, it's like an alarm clock going off for our collective and individual evolution. Since the nodes move backwards, these final degrees represent the ultimate integration of the science lesson before they shift into the next axis. And that's going to be, of course, Aquarius and Leo. It really feels like that this week is a karmic homework. It's the final surrender. We are being asked to stop trying to intellectually grasp the why and instead move into, that I am. So if you are still trying to logic your way out of a spiritual transition, the universe is nudging you to stop. The karma is to move from the head to the heart, really. The South Node is at the end of Virgo, so it's about releasing that critique, that inner critique within us. It's about stop cleaning the house while it's already burning down. We often use getting organized or being perfect as a way to avoid the scary, like the unknown of that North Node in the sign of Pisces. But your past skills are super helpful. Don't let them become a prison. The karma here is to let go of the need for a perfect plan before you take the leap. So, of course, Venus was a bit of a gentle push on the 22nd. She used harmony to show us how much better life feels when we align with our purpose. The Sun, that was a direct challenge. The Sun square is kind of the stake. It creates the friction necessary to make you move. You can't stay where you are because the tension has become too high. And Mars is a bit of a grounding force there. So Mars is ensuring that as we settle this karma, we aren't just floating away. He's helping us pay our karmic debts through consistent physical efforts. Of course, let me give you a piece of advice. If a situation feels familiar, it's likely the South Node habit popping up for a final review. If a challenge feels terrifyingly new, then it's the North Node calling you forward. So this is how you can kind of like think of what's happening. And I also believe that these personal planets are actually paving the path for the next month, Uranus and the nodal squares. So that's going to be happening next month. So I think these personal planets in late May is acting like a scouting party. So they are testing the structures and surfacing the tensions so you aren't blindsided by that Uranus square next month, because Uranus will speed things up. I think that Venus Sun trigger is a bit of a sensitivity training, really. The Sun and Venus are showing you where you are still clinging to the South Node or where you are still scared of the North Node. You are becoming aware of your emotional and intellectual attachments before Uranus comes in to disrupt them. The Mars square Pluto is a bit of a strength test. So I think it's important, super important, especially because it happens on 5 degree. And the most important degree of the year is 4 and 5 degree. So I'm going to be talking about that another time. But I think it tests your resolve and your relationship with power. And Uranus square to the nodes can feel like a loss of control. By dealing with the Mars-Pluto intensity now, you are building a spiritual muscle needed to handle that sudden erratic shift of Uranus that will happen in June. And I'm going to talk about that, of course, in detail a little bit closer to the time. I think when Uranus, which is the great awakener and the disruptor, squares the nodes, it is like a wild card, but it's at a breaking point as well. Uranus in Gemini wants to revolutionize how we process information and connect. So in a square to the nodes, it suggests that the old way of knowing is being hit by a lightning bolt. It's like a karmic U-turn, really. Maybe you might think that you are going in direction A, and then a sudden event or a sudden realization happens, and then it kind of gets you 90 degrees towards direction B. And it's scary, but it can also break the karmic loop. If you have been stuck in the same cycles, Uranus provides the shock necessary to jump to a new timeline. And now you see this coming. So your work during these current aspects is about decluttering. With the Taurus Virgo, we clear our physical space. With Mars in Taurus, we can finish the old task and stabilize our finances. And the Gemini activations are all about clearing the mental energy. Let's communicate clearly and let go of dead end ideas. And the Cancer Pisces is about clearing the emotional side of us. Let's secure our inner home. Now, on the 26th, we also have got Venus in Cancer, sextile Pallas Athene in Aries. Well, we have really spoken about this week in length, right? But we kind of haven't really finished the week yet. So what happens with Venus and Pallas Athene sextile? Pallas Athene um, is about is about strategy. It's about spotting patterns. While the 26 feels like a power struggle, I think this aspect is a peace treaty type of, it's a smart solution. Sorry, it's not a sextile, it's a square. I made a mistake there. So then it's not a peace treaty. Sorry about that. It's more of a, um, well, Venus in Cancer wants to play it safe. It often chooses to stay in a shell. It prioritizes emotional comfort, family needs. But Pallas in Aries says, let's charge ahead. Let's solve the problem immediately. We take no prisoners kind of strategy. We get the results. So the square is like we have to choose between being kind or being, in a way, correct, fair. What's the right course of action? What's the right tactic? It's like the mother against the warrior. It's like the mother who has to send her son into a war. And obviously, Venus in Cancer doesn't want to send the son into a war. But Pallas Athene kind of says that morally that's the right thing to do. So obviously, with Venus in Cancer, we might decide to protect someone's feelings, but maybe that's actually getting in the way of a necessary solution. Maybe you see a clear flaw in a project or, even in your own work. You know exactly how to fix it, but you are afraid that telling them the blunt truth will hurt their feelings and maybe disrupt that family vibe of your group. So therefore, this aspect might bring in quite a few hesitation. You might wait too long to speak up, or you might kind of sugarcoat the advice or the strategy, and that strategic point gets lost. Squares create friction, so you might find yourself overanalyzing a situation to protect yourself from a perceived threat that isn't actually there. Because of the Mars-Pluto tension also happening today, you might create a complex battle plan to defend your home and your personal life, only to realize you are fighting a shadow. You should see the loop here. So Mars is squaring Pluto. Mars is being disposed by Venus. Venus is squaring Pallas Athene. Pallas is being disposed by Venus. So we have got a loop here. And unfortunately, this loop is really tough. So be very careful of passive-aggressive strategies. If you're upset, don't try to be strategically nice. Just be honest about it. Aries, Pallas in Aries is a little bit about the self. It's the pioneer. While Cancer is about the home and the clan and the family. So you can have a brilliant idea, for example. Aries requires you to be bold and to be the first, but family obligations or the need for domestic peace keep pulling you back into your own shell. So I think don't let your feelings talk you out of a smart move. If you see the pattern and you know the answer, use that Sun trine Plutos to say it confidently. It might feel uncomfortable. Those are all the squares, but with the nodes at the final degrees, you don't have time to kind of play small anymore. So that's also important to mention. Not to mention that Venus is actually in a quincunx to Juno as well, which is a bit of an adjustment that we are making when it comes to certain type of our commitments, as well as something to do with our alliances. So, well, we got to the end of the week, really. I mean, yeah, so we got to the end of the week. Maybe I should have spoken a little bit more. No, actually, we have got one more aspect to talk about. Sorry about that. If we are on the 26th, then let's talk about the Sun in Gemini sextile Vesta in Aries as well. And I might need to be making a separate video about Vesta in Aries because it's going to be spending a lot of time there. But it feels like it's a sacred spark. It's like a need to organize the chaos. Kind of like I'm going to be focusing on all that chaos that is going on between the Sun and the North Node, for example. And obviously, we had a lot of power struggle. So, this is a mental focus. I think it helps you take all those scattered Gemini ideas and talks and then kind of like I'm funneling them into a singular kind of like devoted mission. The Sun in Gemini, sorry, Vesta in Aries, Vesta represents our internal flame, what we are most dedicated to. In Aries, that flame burns for independence, leadership, starting something new. So this sextile gives you the opportunity for a productive focus. Gemini is a jack of all trades energy, and it gives that master of one discipline of Vesta. So Vesta says that a singular focus on an idea is super important. Master your skills. So I think this is a brilliant one to create a sacred routine for your professional life or studies. Instead of just checking emails, maybe we light a candle, set a timer, dedicate 90 minutes of a total silence to write a book, filming your content, because it's Gemini Aries, the work feels exciting. It's not just a chore, really. Dedicate yourself to one specific pioneering idea you have been talking about for weeks. Articulate your mission. Vesta is about what we hold sacred, and the Sun in Gemini is how we explain it. So it's about being able to explain the whys, giving clarity to people, being able to tell your students, your neighbors, your siblings, and so forth, your audience, why your work matters. I think today the words align perfect with your passion. And I think people don't just hear your information, they actually feel your commitment as well. That's the beauty of this aspect. Yes, this could also talk us about intellectual independence. Like I stop looking at what other people in my field are doing, or I stop looking at what other people think. That's the noise there. So let's cut out the noise. And I'm just going to focus on my own sacred thoughts. So that's the end of the week. There are minor asteroids are also happening this week, but I've decided not to talk about them much this week. And the reason being is because it feels like that this is already a hell of a lot of information and it has become a very long video. And another thing that I haven't spoken about is that Mercury is gonna go out of bound this week as well. But the reason why I haven't spoken about that, it's going to go out of bound on the 22nd of May on 11 degree of Gemini. Well, I'm going to talk about it just a little bit, but I'm going to be making a separate video about it so that we don't have to kind of just look at really the minor details because that might be a big mistake. But so Mercury goes out of bound on the 11th of, on 11 degree of Gemini on the 22nd. And then Mercury is gonna go inbound. I'm gonna give you the dates as well so that you know. On 18 degree Cancer on June 14th. So I have already spoken about this slightly bit in my Venus goes out of bound video, because of course the dispositor of Venus is also going out of bound. So, Mercury goes out of bound. It means that it goes beyond its declination of the sun, which is 23.27. And it's like Mercury has left the room while the king is still in there. So we don't use logic anymore. We don't do the standard communication. So, Mercury is already at its most potent, fast, and talkative, in the sign of Gemini. And out of bound means that it's like the genius or the madness, really. So ideas become radical, speech becomes unfiltered, the speed of information becomes dizzying, because it starts on the same day when the Sun and Uranus conjunction happens and Mercury and Saturn sextile. It's like a rocket ship taking off while someone is still trying to boil the sea down. And I think what's the good news is that Mercury goes out of bound, but actually we have got the sextile to Saturn, which is calming Mercury down, calming the mind down a little bit. So, but let's talk about this a little bit more um, in a separate video because I really want to be digging into this a lot deeper. So good luck everyone, and I will see you in my next video. Take care. Bye-bye.